This is Depot Square, about 1860. Top right-hand side is the Old Mill Restaurant today, which was originally the old Cotton Gin. Depot Square, 1906. We have a lunch wagon there. They call it a bean wagon sometimes. And you have a peanut man, and the railroad tracks are going through at the time. This is Village Hall and the police department on the left-hand side. This building is exactly where the old Village Hall is, Generoso Pope Foundation today. And this is the Simpkins, the second police officer in the village of Tuckahoe. From 133 Sagamore Road, overlooking the village of Tuckahoe, starting out at the temple, Masonic temple, and going all the way across. We have the Masonic temple that was built in 1922, and the bottom on the left-hand side you'll notice a long a building with a dark roof, and that's the Lyric Theater. And across from the Lyric Theater you'll notice that the building there is the Main Street School, which is now the Village Hall. Then if you go down further, you have the Columbus Avenue coming down to Depot Square was blocked off. And then you can see the cupola from the Village Hall, and the little small Depot Square at that particular time. And then we go across, we have the railroad bridge. And we go across again, we keep going, and we go to run across the Bentley building, which isn't there yet. It was built in 1927. And Cornell's right next to it, that was there, built in 1919. And across the street from Cornell's, you'll notice a little diner, which was there for many years. This picture taken in 1907. There's a Tuckahoe pharmacy there. Then there was a barber shop, Underhill Real Estate, and then the Bronx Review Press that printed the Citizens Bulletin, which was a local newspaper at that time. And on top there was United Water today, Nourishell Water at that time, and law offices of different people. And the town of Eastchester had their offices on the top of that building also. In 1907, I would be standing taking this picture on Breckenridge Street, which later changed to Columbus Avenue. This building, it says on it, it says building contractors. It doesn't look like anybody was in the building at the time, but might have taken this on a Sunday. And you see the trolley tracks going down the middle of the street. And then we have the pharmacy building there, where you can see the little corner of the Main Street and Columbus Avenue there. You can see that little turn there, and you had to make a right-hand turn, then make a left, but that's before they took it all down in about 1928 or so. They took it all down. This is Kramer Haberdashery. They sold rubber boots and things like that. This is directly on the corner of Main Street and Columbus Avenue, where the mall is today. All the way, that turreted building there is on the corner of Columbus Avenue and Main Street. And there's this is Rubley Plumbing here.
Rubley Plumbing, he supposedly invented the toggle bolt. Then there's the gatehouse there. This is the gatehouse for the railroad. So when the train came, they would put this arms down to stop you from going across with your horse and wagon or your house or your car. This, to the best of my knowledge, this is right over the bridge on your right-hand side. This is Underhill real estate there, and then there's a plumber in the back. And in the back, further back than that, I think that's the Hodgman House. And here we have the first, not the first restaurant, but the restaurant on the right-hand side coming across the bridge going towards Yonkers. Tommy's Restaurant, 25 cents for lunch. And along the way you have laundry, another haberdashery here that sold clothing on the corner. This is on the corner of Lake Avenue and Main Street. The dummies in the window.
This is Frank Fritz Depot Square Hotel. This is where today the post office is. Frank Fritz's grandson, his name is Ernie Fritz, helps us in the Tuckahoe Historical Committee when he has time. He's still around and he still talks about that place that he remembers. This is Depot Square, looking southwest. You have there on your left-hand side of the picture, you have a stepping stone, a hitching post, and a barber pole. And then if you look straight ahead to the, like there's a utility pole there, there is a surrey with a horse, like a taxi at that time. And in the back of that is the railroad cars that used to be pulled in, and you would empty them, and when you empty them, they came and picked them up again, and they brought you another full load. And that's how there was transportation for luggage, packages, boxes, materials of all different kinds came by railroad. And then you have the railroad station. That railroad station was built in 1903. And you'll notice in the middle of the square there at that time, you had a water fountain for horses. And the train was level with the railroad station at that time. This is before 1910 when it was all changed. Here we have Main Street looking west. On your right-hand side is the mall today. And when you see that tapered building there with the cone-shaped roof, that was Columbus Avenue. And there's the trolley in the middle of the street. The trolleys lasted until approximately 1925, even though the tracks stayed for many years afterwards. In the back on your left, way in the back, is Bentley's position, where Bentley is today. And they had a grocery store on the bottom, and on top of it they had the Masonic Temple, which had moved in 1922, approximately. In 1922, the cornerstone says 1922, and they moved up the road. Railroad tracks, while they lower the railroad tracks. This is about 1910. They lowered the railroad tracks about 6 feet, and then they had to raise many of the buildings. They raised them up to come to where they are today, leveling them. Looking northeast at the bridge under construction, you'll see there a very rare item. It's actually a steam cement mixer.
and they're putting up the abutments for the bridge that is coming at a later date. But this is northeast, and it's in the background on the right-hand side. That's Lake Avenue. They had houses there at that time. This is the Tuckahoe Railroad Station again, and they're raising this building, this railroad station. They're raising it up, and if you look at the building on the left-hand side, that's where the elevator shaft is even today. That's when they put the luggage on carts, and they brought it up the elevator, and they pulled it on a wagon. You'll see in another picture. At the side of this railroad station right now, in this picture, you can see the cart, the four-wheel cart that they use for going up and down the elevator and pushing it around to different places and getting the luggage off the train at that time. And you can actually see the horse there on the left and the serried cart that they used as a taxi cab in those days. It appears that the bridge is finished here, and you have two trolleys, one on the left and one on the right. The one on the right is pointed towards up Main Street all the way to Waverly Square. That's where it went. And the one on the left went to Yonkers. And it appears like maybe they didn't have the over the bridge ready at this given time. So they bumped into each other right there, and they walked from one trolley to the next trolley to continue on with their passage. You have on your left-hand side there is the old Village Hall, and behind it is the old Bank of New York, or actually the Bank of Westchester at that time. And actually you can see 133 Sagamore Road. They're all crunched up, but it's a long distance. The way the lenses were at that time, it appears that way. And even today, they have a way of telephoto lenses crunching up the scene. This is the winter of 1911. It seems like the railroad tracks were finished, and all the buildings were raised, everything was smoothed out, and the trolley track went across the railroad bridge. And the horses were old covered wagons at that time. They had covers all over them for some reason, because it was cold out there, and whoever was driving them wanted to keep warm. And then there's, if you look over the bridge, the first building on your left was Rubley Plumbing at one time, and now at this time it was the Square Hotel. In this picture, starting from the right-hand side, this picture was taken about anywhere from 1928 to 1930, in that era of time, because the next building on your right-hand side after the grocery store is what I call the Carvel building, and that was built in 1928. And if you go to the left a little bit, you'll see all the debris. They were taking down the original Depot Square, because that was made out of wood and with a foundation that was sticking up on the wood, and it's been there a very, very, very long time. And then the next building, you'll see the original, in this building, this is Village Hall from 1910, 1911, 1913. And this building here is not the shape it was as you look at it today. You see the 5 gas pumps there on the left-hand side? Well, they had a so-called gas station at that given time in life. And the building itself is in a different shape. They didn't add or make that construction until 1940. In 40, they took that, most likely they took the gasoline stations down, or whatever that was, and then they reconfigured the Village Hall, and that's what you have today.
This picture from Sagamore Road looking down into Depot Square was taken about 1970, 1972. And the famous picture of Village Hall, dedicated in 1913, it was beautiful at the time, still is. We have Depot Square all fixed up. Columbus Avenue goes right through, straight ahead up Sagamore Road now. We have a Daniel Reeves on the corner where the mall is today. The Square Hotel is still there. This is about 1935, I give it a guess at. And the Bentley building was built in 1927, and that's up. And along the way we go, they got Cornell's, True Value today. Depot Square. Coming up Columbus Avenue, goes straight across up Sagamore Road now, after the repair and they leveled it all out. And the Carvel building, which I'll call it, is there. That was built in 1928. And they had the flower shop there, the barber shop, and the drugstore on the corner. Columbus Avenue into Depot Square. The original building for Depot Square is totally gone now, and it's all level. It's about 100 feet back. That's what makes Depot Square much bigger today than it was originally. You're looking up Main Street right now. That's the mall on the left, and you have trolley tracks, and you see the car on the right-hand side there. This must be taken on a Sunday because there's nobody around. And then you have Frank Manley, building contractor. I think he owned that car. And the school was put in 1906. You can see it's leveled out over there. And then they were cutting out the Sonic Temple site, and they were breaking the rocks up and putting them into different sizes, and they were selling them to the railroad and anybody else who wanted them. And because the temple was put in 1922. This is Milton Gibbons, a police officer that was on the force from 1923 to 1951. And he's directing traffic at the corner of Columbus Avenue and Main Street. It seems that the children just got out from school. They're excited about going across the street. In the background, if you look in the left center on the top, you will see the cupola of the Village Hall, now Generoso Pope Foundation. And that all was blocked up there. And this is Mike Pinto, police officer. He was a police officer from 1922 to 1948. If you were standing today in front of the post office on Columbus Avenue looking south towards Generoso Pope Foundation, this is what you would be looking at this time. There was a radio store in there, Cristidi Brothers grocery store, and there was Mr. Pieri at that time. He was there, opened the shop to take photographs. Columbus Avenue coming into Depot Square in Tuckahoe. There you have Russell Pharmacy, and across the street was Bruno Pharmacy. And this is what it looked like in the 50s. This little clip is from the mid-60s of Depot Square and what it looked like at the time. As we go along, there's May's Shoe Outlet that we had in the village, and and it had an entrance also on Main Street where the Lyric Theater entrance was. And there's a depot stationery and the old Village Hall, now the Generoso Pope Foundation. And on the right-hand side of that, they had the police department entrance. And then the last Dyke Shopwell, the last chain store was in Tuckahoe. And then we had we had a Five and Dime that was sitting there for many, many years. I forget the man's name that owned that. We are now looking at the Masonic Temple, built around 1922. On the left of the Masonic Temple, you'll see the new Village Hall, which was originally built for Main Street School in 1906. And across the street, you will notice a long, black, dark building there. That was the Lyric Theater. That was built about 1922. And then they put a building between the Lyric Theater and the back of the old Depot Square building. That was the original Depot Square building. It had been remodeled in 1910. And as you're going along, you'll see the bridge that you go over the railroad tracks. That was built in about 1910 also. And major reconstruction there. In the back, up on the right, is the Hodgman Rubber Company. And then you see the spot where Bentley has a building. We'll call it the Bentley Building. And that was built in 1927. Right next to the Bentley Building is Cornell's Hardware Store. That was built around 1919. And across the street you will notice a little sort of small building, a long narrow building there. And that was a bean wagon or a diner at this modern times. Or it was a lunch wagon, it was called also. This picture here of the railroad bridge was taken about 1970, maybe 1972. And then we have the last dying part of it. Roma restaurant was put there during their construction down on Columbus Avenue. And after Roma restaurant was there and they moved out again, it went to an IGA, grocery chain. We had that for a while. And then in 1913, they dedicated the old Village Hall, which you're looking at. This is an early postcard of Depot Square. If you look straight in the center, you see that tapered roof building. On the other side of that was Breckenridge Street, which was just before Columbus Avenue. It was called Breckenridge. And you came out and hit a building. You didn't hit the building, but you went around to the right, and then you went to the left, and then you went into Bronxville that way, in front of this building. You saw a trolley there, and you saw that fountain in the middle of the square there. The fountain was for horses. I assume it's for horses, but that's a water fountain. In that building, starting from the center, the Depot Square side, was a drugstore, and then there was a barber shop, and then there was a leather store, harnesses for horses and things like that. And then you went along and you ran across the post office at that time, and then you ran across Citizens Bulletin. Upstairs was North Shore Water Company, and town offices were also up there. The town, not the village, the town. Here we have a new postcard. A lot of these come from Postcards. And this is the fountain in the center is gone. And the harness shop is turned into Underhill Realty Company. And I forgot about Liberty Lunch here. They're turning it around, to the best of my knowledge, from what I can see. They've turned it around because of the other photograph. And they changed it into a new place. In 1927, we had a 5-mile race, and this is what it was like. It went from Depot Square, down Oak Avenue, and through Bronxville and up from White Plains Road and around. I have it on another video somewhere. And this is a little accident, I guess it came down Sagamore Road, went to the back of Village Hall at that time. Generoso Poe Foundation. It's a little different today. On the southeast corner of the Village Hall to then, now Generoso Poe Foundation, we had a gas station. It was on the north side of Bank Street, on the east side of Sagamore Road. And this is what they did. The man that you see sticking his head out is Herbert Riesdorf. He's the one that took many of these movies that I happen to have, and I'm transferring them to video so we could all enjoy them. Here a man breaking down a building. I see it in other movies and other snapshots, this little building. I don't know what it, I can't read what it was or how they did whatever they did, but they took it down. And if you look in the back, you will see the Tuckahoe Railroad Station. And the depot was all cleaned up at the time, because you'll notice that the Carvel building is sitting there behind the man that's breaking this building down. If you look in the back, you'll see the Village Hall at that time. You'll notice that the first window and the second window and the third space was actually a door at that time. I don't know what year this is. This has got to be in the 30s, I assume, because of the Carvel building being put up. And then in 1940, they remodeled Village Hall, and they squared it off on Bank Street and Sagamore Road. You hardly notice it today, but if you look very closely, you could actually see the yellow brick is a little different on the left-hand side of the existing door today and the right-hand side. You can just check it out if you have nothing to do one day. Frank Fritz Depot Square Hotel. And as you go along here, they look up Columbus Avenue towards the Crestway. 35 Columbus is on your left there. Look all the way back. And turn around, we have the local post. On the corner of Main Street there. Looking at the Lyric Theater. There's people standing there. And if you notice, you'll see the trolley track was still there. The trolley stopped about 1926, but trolley tracks themselves, I don't know when they lifted them. If I'm not mistaken, this is Walter Lenhart, the man who owned the Lyric Theater. He bought this theater in 1930. Before that, he was the manager. And then they came the Lions 1925, the Lions came to the village of Tuckahoe. And this is just a little piece that is there, and I have no idea who these people are or how they do whatever they do. It was right in front of Village Hall at that time. No Depot Square as the car comes around and you see him going off. If you were driving down Columbus Avenue at this time and you came across Main Street, this is the building that would be right in front of you. It was a Christie's, a radio store, and E.P. Area photographer was there also in that space. Just a glimpse of Tuckahoe Railroad Station at that time, way back when in the winter, and the Square Hotel was still there at this given time. This is the Square Hotel being demolished, by hand no less. I found more footage of that little shack that they took down. And I can't figure out if they put the desk there and they built the shed around it, or they built the shed and they put the desk inside it. But it might be the office for the gas station across the street. They did strange things then at that time. Looking up Main Street. There's Daniel Reeves on the corner there, Columbus Avenue coming out. I can't see what this other place is, but the next one is a Square Lunch, William Cade. Then there's the Monahan Paper Store, and then that Bentley building has not been put up yet. So these movies have to be before 1927 and after 1922. And the Depot Square was not remodeled yet. Square Lunch at Depot Square. If you look at it closely, you'll see that there's a paper sign in one of the pictures and a permanent sign in the other pictures, and the doorways are different. That has me stumped for years. I have no idea what that's all about or where it was. But this man, if you see him rattling the paper, that's the man that was taking the movies of Tuckahoe all those years. This was taken in about 1935, in the middle 30s sometime. I have a quote on that somewhere. And if you notice that the flagpole is very shortly in front of Village Hall at that time, and the cobblestone street that was installed. We're on top of Sagamore Road, 133 Sagamore Road, looking down over Depot Square, and Columbus Avenue coming straight down. You'll notice there's a street there, and then it's buildings. You run across some buildings there, and then this still didn't come straight ahead at this given time in life, so this has to be before 1928 or 1925. Depot Square again, looking towards Hodgman Rubber Company. Then it was Bora's Welcome, I think, and the Square Hotel is there at this time. It was a holiday of some kind. The politicians spoke and everybody went home. It had to be on a Sunday or something like that. This is James Barletta policeman in the village of Tuckahoe for many, 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 many years. And the others, this one and that one, I can't remember who they are. I don't even know who they are. This is Patrolman Spencer. I forget his first name, but later on he became police chief in the village of Tuckahoe. Tuckahoe Sanitation Department. There is so much to be said about the movies and the photos you have seen. You can talk about each one of these buildings, about the stores, about the people who ran them, and the people who lived in town for a long time. I only spoke of what I know and what I can see because I lived here for 73 years. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. In this instance, 2,000 words wouldn't be enough.